start with my major argument regarding the conflict, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Actually, I'm really apologize because it seems that I'm going to touch certain elements of others, my colleagues' lectures, so I apologize, but anyway, we'll learn from their presentation about their view on the conflict. I think that more than 70 years after the partition plan in 47, and of course more than 50 years after the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, second occupation of Palestine, we need to really think about how to proceed forward and how to move. And there are many reasons behind this protracted conflict, the situation, so we'll touch it in different aspects of the same problem. The second thing that I'm going to say, and it seems to me a problematic issue, I need your help. I think that we need to really think about the concept of liberation, because when we think about national groups, it seems that for many people, and we learned yesterday that many people think that non-territorial autonomy or territorial autonomy, it's not a national liberation. I think that we need to reframe the concept of non-territorial autonomy as part of a liberation movements, because as we Palestinians, we are under occupation, and we want to see any act, any move towards the future as part of the liberation, our liberation from the occupier, from the Israeli side. So it seems for me, when I talk with many Palestinians, and they insist into the two-state solution, they say, let us take our own homeland state and then move to the next step. I said, if we move directly to the next step, then we have to convince them, the Palestinians, that this is part of their national liberation in Palestine. And I think that it is also very important for the Jews, because the vast majority of Jews, they think if we will have one state solution with two non-territorial autonomy, this will be less than national self-determination for them. And this is a problem that we are facing in Palestine. As you know, Israel is moving towards the right, and the right believes more and more that the only way to have self-determination and to have pure Jewish state, at least in the symbolic level. And the field, we know that there are many Palestinians and many others in Palestine and Israel. So we have to think. What do I mean by double solution, but non-territorial solution? I think that when coming to Palestine, Israel, we need to consider the national level of Palestinians and Israelis. Usually in the international arena, when we speak about Palestinians, we mean Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. That's not true. There are other Palestinians, the refugee Palestinians and Palestinians in Israel, and we have to consider them as part of the conflict, because they are really part of the conflict that erupted in 48 or maybe before 48. So when thinking about the solution, we need really to consider the concept of the national level between Palestinians and Israelis, Israeli Jews and Palestinian Arabs as part of any non-territorial arrangement. And the other level that we really need to think about carefully is about having communal non-territorial autonomy for certain segments of both communities. I mean, let's say for the ultra-Orthodox Jews, there is some kind of non-territorial autonomy in Israel. So we need really to consider this part of the hierarchy of the solution. One from the national level, second from the community level. I guess that when coming to the Palestinian internal relations, I think that Palestinians in Israel, they were developing in certain manner, in certain way, that we might consider granting them some kind of non-territorial autonomy as part of the general Palestinian framework. So we need really to think about this concept carefully. This is my major point. So, why do we need to reevaluate the workable mechanism of territorial self-determination? I already touched this question. I will return to it. There are many reasons behind the need, explain the need, why do we need really to think about this concept that catched up, that controlled us for at least 72 years or Since 67, we all speak about the two-state solution rather than the one state, the joint state, so we needed to think. And the other one, why this classical model, and I think that Frame will touch this question in his, I read his abstract, why this classical model of two-state solution is not a solution. It's part of the problem, and it creates another major problems facing Palestine and Israel, so we'll move from one kind of conflict to another kind of conflict if we will have two-state solution. So this is why we really need to think about in Palestine, and I guess as Brian explained in his opening lecture, in many ways territorial self-determination in 90% of the states in the world, this means the oppression of the minority. Because if you have only national self-determination for the majority, then the minorities will be under this control system of the tyranny of the majority or the control of the dominant group. Secondly, I think that sovereignty in many ways is explained, and in Israel, of course, it's part of the exclusive meaning of self-determination. What means in Israel, and there is a new law in Israel that called the state of, as a Jewish state, it was launched before 2 years, I guess it was before in August 17. Yes, it claims that Israel is only a Jewish state, it's only for Jews. I'm not existing at all. I'm holding Israeli citizenship, so I'm not appearing there at all. It's not only me. All my community is part of this. For them, the conflict over territory is total, and one group will gain sovereignty. And of course, when we speak about mixture of realities, as explained before, we need to really consider self-determination as not only one type of self-determination. We need to really consider our thinking about the variety of options of self-determination, where non-territorial self-determination is one option, part of many options for self-determination. We need to think about self-determination as a continuum rather one option facing other options. So this is very important to move in protracted conflict with mixture of realities, as in Palestine, Israel, to this concept. As I said before, self-determination should be implemented with two conditions. It is a relative term. It is not if there is self-determination or there is nothing. It should be in a continuum, and we need to think about as a relative term. I mean, I teach my students that everything is in politics is relative. Nothing is pure 100%. Only nationalistic, anti-democratic people, and religious, of course, people think about only total concepts, that if you are a Muslim, then you are 100 Muslim. You cannot be something else. And in the last session, yesterday, the guy who gave us the lecture about the Syrianics, he explained, he touched this issue, that people can be at the same time Palestinians and Jews. And there are many examples. I know that Chico is part of, I think, he belongs to this category of people. So people can be Israelis and Palestinians. Of course, for Palestinians in Israel, this is also an option, and we have to consider it not in a fixed absolute term, but in a relative term. And of course, we need to think about lenient and delicate model rather than rigid closed one. It is not only one of the meaning of self-determination. It's not only what we learn for many years, that it is the only option is a territorial self-determination, as explained by Wilson concept that brought from the United States. He thought about the American nation that contained many ethnic groups, many races, that this is the nation, and this nation deserves self-determination. He didn't think about the European case, where nations are separate according to ethnic belonging rather than civil belonging. So this was a mistake, but anyhow, we learned from it. as Aaron Myron Young framed it, self-determination as a compatible with being together in difference. We need to think about this option, self-determination and non-interference and non-domination principle of non-domination imply relationship between self-determined units and the joint unit of such relationship. In other words, self-determination where autonomous communities reside in shared territorial places, and we really think, okay. I want to refer to the concept of constitutionalism that we referred to it yesterday. Non-territorial autonomy could be part of a certain regulation or certain arrangement for national minorities. That's true. Lippert, when he framed the concept of constitutionalism, he framed it as part of a conflict between two national groups, not one national group and one minority. And that's why he framed it with 4 basic principles of parity, of course, and he meant parity between 2 nations in Belgium or in, and of course, internal autonomy, veto. What is the veto? Veto means that 2 groups are equal in their power, and they have the same ability to threaten the others if they, whatever their numbers. It is not a question of demography, it's a question of power. And he meant by the equality of power between 2 nations. And this is why I think that this should be implied in Palestine-Israel. In Palestine-Israel, there is the Israeli Jews are much powerful concerning weapons and army, etc. It is not the whole story of power. Palestinians hold a lot of power in their real life. They have the legitimacy, they have they stand in their land, and they have many aspects of power that made a balance between the 2 communities. I mean, this is not a total collapse of the Palestinians. They still have many points of strength, and we need to think about them. National cultural autonomy for certain groups, of course, I just already mentioned. Form of representation that territorial has self-determination. Now, I'm going from here to Istanbul. There is a seminar in Istanbul speaks about Palestinians as one nation. We are facing a huge problem as Palestinians. Israel, due to many reasons. Excuse me. What is concerning time? I mean,
I have another. No, I have because he's my friend. I give him 2 more minutes.
So basically, we need to rethink. No, we need. I mean. So thank you. Anyway, I will be accused of that. Actually, that we need to think about deterritorialization of presentation. I start saying that we Palestinians, we need to reconsider our national movement, the PLO, because PLO now represents de facto only Palestinians in the West Bank. It gives up Palestinians in the refugee camps and Palestinians in Israel. So we need to reframe the concept of Palestinian national movement. Of course, I already spoke. I mean, in my talk, in my presentation, I wrote also a book about this concept. I think the only way to move forward is to bring to the table the concept of binationalism that contains non-territorial autonomy for both communities. We are losing the ability to think appropriately about the conflict while continue speaking about resolving the conflict upon liberal lines. It is a mistake. We are not going anywhere from there. So we need this conference, the ideas that are presented in this conference, in order to teach us how to frame the concept of the future based in the 2 nationalities with considering seriously the concepts of national identities. I have many other reasons, but I will stop here. I guess that my point is clear. We will learn from this conference, from the ideas that are presented here, in order to move forward in Palestine-Israel for a peaceful solution for the next generation, rather than continue talking about two territorial units. Thank you.
Okay.